Amazon, Boeing, Facebook, all making headlines today. Boeing CEO, in fact, speaking out in the wake of the fatal Ethiopian airline crash, and Facebook on the Christchurch attack. And new details are emerging over the salacious text between Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos and his mistress. The Wall Street Journal reporting the National Enquirer paid Michael Sanchez, that's the brother of Lauren Sanchez, $200,000 for the private text messages it published in January. Now, currently, all three stocks weathering the turmoil in today's session. Here to weigh in on it all, Payne Capital Management's Courtney Dominguez, and back with us, David Nelson. Let me start with you, Courtney. Just overall, you know, it's just these sort of scandals. They make big headlines. Some are more, you know, the Boeing obviously involved lives.
Yeah.
Amazon involves the questions about the CEO's character and trust. How do you think investors should look at something like that?
A lot of these headlines, too, tend to be short-lived. Boeing's a great example. I think it's a horrible thing that has happened. It did cost lives. But what's kind of interesting is the first year that the 737 came out, that first year, there's actually 2 deadly crashes. And 6 months after that second crash, Boeing actually traded higher. And I think a lot of that is because headlines, they don't last that long, and people are going to focus on where are they going forward. They also don't have a lot of competition, so you really have to look at this over the long run, and I don't think it's something they can't be overcoming.
Right. I mean, it does help when you have an order book that gives you about a 20-year outlook. You're beating your only competition in the world, and there's demand through the roof, right? So, you know, that certainly put a bottom in Boeing going back to last Monday when it opened at 364, Dave.
Yeah, but it's pretty important what's going on right now, and the fix had better work. You know, and it's very often you have a software fix like this for their MCAS system, and maybe it'll work, and I'm hopeful of that. But keep in mind, they delivered 806 planes last year. 70% of them were 737 Maxes. So for the fix for this is very important for the firm.
I want to ask you about the Bezos news. I want to alert the audience that when Jeff Bezos published his retort to the National Enquirer, that was February 7th on Medium, Amazon shares were 16.14. So, David, they're significantly higher right now. Yeah. You know, so the stock has weathered that particular storm, even though some big-time, deep-pocketed money managers have voiced some concern about whether or not Bezos is the man for the job.
I'm not that concerned about it, you know, based on the news that we've heard. You know, in the end, I think a big part of the stock's move was, you know, the market has come a long way. We're up 20% from the Christmas Eve low. This is a very diversified company. It's not just selling books. It's not just a retailer. They're one of the biggest technology companies on the planet right now, very big in the cloud. I think Jeff has shepherded through this, and it's unfortunate, but he'll weather this. He's the richest guy on the planet.
It is so interesting, though, that the media was really quick to try to connect the dots between President Trump, the National Enquirer, and even suggesting that maybe American intelligence assets were used for this. You know, I know you don't use that kind of stuff in your analysis of the market, but we're talking about Boeing and Amazon, both big global players, right? And you look at the world from a big macro perspective. You know, what's happening, because we just saw President Trump with a great meeting with the president of Brazil, talking about a greater alliance. That's the thing you want to hear, isn't it?
Very much so. I really think that not just the U.S. economy, but the global economy is in a great place right now. Boeing, which you brought up, is a good example. That is easily the highest weighted in the Dow Jones. And despite that, things are still looking up. And that's because it's really, if anything, things are doing better than the data showing, because Boeing is weighing down how the markets are actually doing.
What about from but you still, last time you were here, you liked emerging markets a little bit more than our markets. Now, I hear analysts every single year say emerging markets, in part because they're cheap. And they don't necessarily outperform. It's been a long time since they've really outperformed. Why is this time going to be different?
Well, I think the fact that the Fed, hopefully, as we've talked about, is going to keep interest rates low here, that actually will keep the dollar low, which is a great thing for emerging markets. So, yes, it's cheap. And if we're looking to, a lot of the global population is in emerging markets. You have actually a majority of the population is going to be in those countries over the next decade. So you have a huge population growth. And with the dollar weakening, it's a really good time to be getting in there.
Couple of intriguing things going on. Tech stocks and video surging today on their investor day meeting.
Yeah.
AMD up because Google's going to get into live streaming. No one knows if they're going to be successful or not. Financials keep coming back. You've been talking about financials, materials having a great day, and oil almost broke out. What is all of this telling you?
I guess stocks are sniffing out something. They're either sniffing out a trade deal, but the elephant in the room, she touched on it. It is the Federal Reserve. This reverse course that they've had in the last couple of months speaks to this rally, and it was almost to the day that the rhetoric started to turn and now policy has turned. So the Fed is big news here, and will continue to be so.
We're not over our skis?
Well, we got to get to 2940. When we start living above that, then I guess we'll be there.
All eyes will be on tomorrow's press conference.
Yes,
Thank you very much, Courtney and David.